And welcome to Scott's Weekly Sports Day, ladies and gentlemen. I am back with my dad. College football and the NFL season are here. Finally, we have some football on the weekends. Sorry I could not post last week. My mom was out of town last week, so I was not able to post, but I hope you all enjoyed all my picks on Facebook last week that I posted. So with that, let's get into this week's episode of Scott's Weekly Sports. First game out tonight, Friday night football tonight on ESPN2 will be Marshall and Boise State from Albertson Stadium in Boise. I will take Boise State on the Smurf turf tonight. It's tough to win on the Smurf turf, so I will take Boise State to get a win over Marshall.
As much as I'd like to see Boise State lose so UCF can be safe getting into the New Year's Six Bowl, I think Boise State's going to win this game, unfortunately.
Next up, Cincinnati and Ohio State tomorrow on Fox. Should be a good game. I'm going to take Ohio State in the horseshoe tomorrow. Should be no problems for the Buckeyes tomorrow. I will take Ohio State over Cincinnati. Should be no problems here. I will take the Buckeyes in the horseshoe tomorrow against Cincinnati.
I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I think Cincinnati is much improved, but I do think Ohio State will get the win at home.
Next up, Michigan and Army in the Big House tomorrow in Ann Arbor. I will go with Jim Harbaugh and Michigan to get a win over Army. Should be no problem here. But thank you to all of the Army men that have served our country. You're not winning this week. I'll take Michigan over Army.
So why aren't you picking them then?
I just don't think so.
Fair enough. So I'm going to pick Michigan as well. I think Michigan has superior athletes. The Army guys are busy training to be in the Army, so I think Michigan's going to get the win here.
Next up, Rutgers in Iowa in Kinnick Stadium tomorrow in Iowa City. As much as I want to pick Rutgers in this game, and I hope Rutgers wins this game, I'm going to take Iowa to win this game over Rutgers. I will take Iowa to get a win in Kinnick and get ready for next week against Iowa State. I will take Iowa at home against Rutgers.
Rutgers is truly a bad team. Iowa is a good team. Iowa gets the win.
Next up, Syracuse and Maryland at Maryland Stadium in College Park. My one big upset of the week is right here. I will take Maryland to upset Syracuse at home. They put up 70 points last week. Looked really impressive against Howard last week. I will take Maryland to upset the Syracuse University Orange. I was not impressed with DeVito last week for Syracuse. I will take Maryland to upset Syracuse in College Park tomorrow.
I think that's a pretty good pick. I think Maryland could win this game at home, probably will win this game at home, but I'm going to go the other way. I'm going Syracuse. Syracuse has a lot to play for. They win this game, they're probably going to get game day in 2 weeks.
Is that why you're picking them? Is because you don't want to see UCF get college game day next week?
No, I'd love to see them get college game day.
Next up, Northern Iowa and Utah. An early kickoff for the Utah Utes tomorrow. 1 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Usually they're on at like 10 o'clock at night. I will take the Utes coming off a big win last week against BYU. I will take Utah at home against Northern Illinois this week in Salt Lake City to get a win over Northern Illinois.
I think Utah may be one of the more underrated teams this year. I think Utah could very well win the Pac-12. They're going to win this game for sure.
Next up, one of the bigger games of the weekend is it will be number 12 Texas A&M heading into Clemson, South Carolina to take on Trevor Lawrence and Clemson. This game was in College Station like it was last year. I would probably take an A&M this week. But I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence and Clemson to get a win over Texas A&M. I just feel like the coach is better. I have more faith in Dabo Swinney than I do in Jimbo Fisher this week, so I will take Clemson at home in Death Valley this week over Texas A&M.
I agree. If this game was on the road, it's a toss-em game. But at Clemson, I think Clemson's just too talented. They're going to get the win, probably by 10 points.
Next up, Central Michigan and Wisconsin from Camp Randall Stadium this week. I will take Wisconsin to get another big win. They got a huge win last week against South Florida. I expect them to get another blowout win this week. Give the Badgers at home in Camp Randall over Central Michigan.
I agree with Scott. Wisconsin's going to get the win. And Wisconsin, again, is one of those underrated teams, ranked 17th. I think they're probably a top 10 or 12 team.
Next up, number 25, Nebraska going on the road to Boulder to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. One word for you in this game, that is revenge. Colorado beat Nebraska at Nebraska last year to start Scott Frost off 0-1 in his Nebraska career. Revenge is a dish best served cold, and I think it'll happen tomorrow. Nebraska goes into Colorado in Boulder and upsets Colorado.
Nebraska looked shaky last week. I think Colorado's going to get the win here at home. Even though Nebraska's going to be very motivated, I think Colorado is going to get the win.
And probably the biggest line of the weekend is there will be New Mexico State heading into Tuscaloosa to take on Nick Saban in Alabama. Alabama favored by 55.5 this week against New Mexico State. I feel like that's too much. So I'm going to take Alabama at home, but they will not cover that 55.5. I will take Alabama at home to get a win over New Mexico State.
I agree. I think Alabama's going to win by 50, not 55.5.
Next up, Murray State heading into Athens and between heads to take on Jake Fromm and Georgia. Georgia looked good in the run game last week against Vandy. Couldn't get the pass game going last week against Vanderbilt, but I feel like they'll get it going this week against Murray. I will take the Georgia Bulldogs to get another home win in Athens this week. And don't look ahead to a couple weeks ahead. I will take Georgia to get a win over Murray State.
Georgia will blow out Murray State by at least 3 touchdowns.
Next up, Northern Colorado and Washington State, number 22 ranked in the nation. In Pullman tomorrow, I will take Wazoo at home again. Washington State looks good again this year. I will take the Cougars of Washington State to get a win over Northern Colorado.
I agree. Washington State's going to get the win. Washington State, I believe, continued their streak at Disney with their flag. Washington State is going to get the win here pretty easily.
Next up, South Dakota and Oklahoma. Should be another easy win for them. I'll take Oklahoma at home. I liked how their quarterback looked last week against Houston. Again, that defense does not look good, but I'm going to take Oklahoma at home to get a win in Norman against South Dakota.
I agree. Oklahoma's got better athletes. They're at home. They're going to win.
Next up, UCF and FAU. UCF's coming into the game as a 10 to 10.5 point favorite. Depends on where you look on the bet line. I'll take UCF to win and cover this week. UCF easily covers the 10. I'll take UCF on the road at FAU in a virtual home game for the Knights. I will take UCF to get a win against FAU, who looked a little bit good, who looked okay last week against Ohio State, but I'll take UCF at home. With our shaky quarterback play, I'll take UCF at home to find a way to get some good quarterback play out of both quarterbacks. I'll take UCF to get a win over FAU.
I agree. I think UCF's going to win. I think it'll be closer than Scott thinks. I think it could be a 10-point game, maybe a 7-point game. I think UCF will get the win on the road.
Next up, Tulane and Auburn in Jordan-Hare tomorrow. I will take Auburn big over Tulane. No problem here for the SEC. I'll take Auburn to get a big win coming off an emotional win last week against Oregon. I feel like they could start off a little shaky, but I don't think it's going to matter. I'll take Auburn at home against Tulane.
I agree. I think Auburn's too talented. They're playing at home. I think they will have a little bit of a letdown. So if you're playing the spread, I think you might want to take Tulane in the points.
Next up, Buffalo and Penn State in Beaver Stadium in University Park. I will take Penn State to get another big win. Put up 70 last week. I expect them to not put up that many points this week. They'll still put up a lot. I'll take Penn State over Buffalo this weekend.
I agree. A lot of dog games this week, a lot of non-competitive games. Penn State wins against Buffalo pretty easily.
Next up, Oregon at home in Eugene at Autzen Stadium going against the Nevada Wolfpack. I will take Oregon to get a win at home in Autzen Stadium. It's tough to win there, so I'll take Oregon to bounce back after a heartbreaking loss last week against Auburn. I'll take Oregon to get back on track and get a win against Nevada.
Oregon's going to come out angry. They're going to feel like they left a game on the field. I think they're going to beat Nevada pretty badly.
Next up, Western Michigan and Michigan State should be a phenomenal game. Not really. I'll take Michigan State at home in East Lansing at Spartan Stadium against Western Michigan. If this was a couple of years ago's Western Michigan team, I'd feel a little bit worried about it, but their old coach is now, I believe, in Minnesota, so I'll take Michigan State at home against Western Michigan.
I'm going to bet 2 things in this game. Number 1, that Michigan State will win, and number 2, that D'Antoni will not smile.
Next up, California and Washington at Husky Stadium in Seattle. Probably one of the nicest stadiums in the entire nation out there in Seattle. I'm going to take the Huskies at home. Jacob Eason looked pretty good last week. I believe that's the quarterback that Washington has this year, the transfer out of Georgia. I'm going to take Washington at home to get a win over California.
I agree. Washington's too good, especially at home. They're probably one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the Pac-12. I think Washington's going to get the win.
Next up, number 25 Stanford heading into Los Angeles to take on the USC Trojans. Both starting quarterbacks are out for the game. KJ Costello will not play this week after getting concussed last week against Northwestern, and JC Daniels is out for the season with a torn ACL. So both teams are onto their second-string quarterbacks. but I think Stanford's going to find a way to pull it out. Stanford does not look ahead to next week. I'll take Stanford to get a win at home, on the road in LA against USC.
I'd like to see Stanford win this game because they play UCF next week, but I think unfortunately, without their starting quarterback on the road, they're going to lose to USC in a close one.
Next up, College Game Day game of the week. They will be in Austin, Texas tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific time, 8. One of the other times. Central time, yes. Texas and LSU in Austin at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. I am unfortunately going to take LSU in this game. I feel like LSU has too much talent on the field this week. I'm going to take LSU in a not to find a way to get a win in Austin in a low scoring game. I'll take LSU over Texas.
I'm going the other way. I think Texas. This is their focal point. This is their game. This is to show everybody they're back in college football. They're a power to be reckoned with. This was at LSU. I take LSU, but I think at Texas, very close game. I think Texas wins this by a field goal.
Now into the NFL games for the weekend. The NFL is back after a terrible game last night. Absolutely terrible game last night.
Unless you like defense.
Unless you like defense, exactly. But that was neither quarterback looked good last night between Rodgers and Trubisky. But let's head into the NFL this week. First up, Marcus Mariota and the Titans. Could be in his last season in Nashville for Mariota as they head into Paul Brown Stadium, now called First Energy Stadium in Cleveland, and they take on Baker Mayfield and the Browns. I'm going to take Baker and the Browns to get a win on Sunday. Nice and easy against the Titans. I'll take the Browns to get a win in pretty nice weather this weekend. I'll take the Browns at home in Cleveland to get a win against the Titans.
It's a great game for the Browns to open up a confidence builder against a mediocre Titans team. Couldn't say that. I think the Browns get the win by at least a touchdown.
Next up, the Baltimore Ravens heading in to Hard Rock Stadium to take on Ryan Fitzmagic and the Miami Dolphins. I'm going to take the Ravens big this week over the Dolphins. No problems here. The Dolphins have no help whatsoever from Ryan Fitzpatrick. That run game is the only thing they have this week. And they say they're going to run the ball like 20, 30 times this week against that Ravens defense. I don't think it's going to matter. I'm going to take the Ravens at home. I'm starting in the fantasy this week. I'll take the Ravens on the road in Miami against the Dolphins.
This could get ugly for Miami. They could score maybe 3 points, maybe 7, have 3 or 4 turnovers. I think the Ravens get the win here pretty easily.
Next up, the Atlanta Falcons heading in to U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis to take on Kirk Cousins and the Vikings. I'm going to take the Vikings to get a win here. I feel like the Vikings are going to be a sleeper team to win the NFC North this year. I'm going to take the Vikings at home to defeat Matty Ice and the Falcons. We don't know if Julio Jones will go this week, so I'm going to take the Vikings at home against the Falcons.
I think these are 2 of the better teams in the NFC. I think the Vikings are going to bounce back this season after a disappointing season last year. I think the Vikings are going to win at home by 4.
Next up, the Buffalo Bills heading into MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Jets. I'm going to take Sam Darnold and the Jets at home. Le'Veon Bell will play well this week. Get him going with that new offense. I'm going to take the Jets at home against the Buffalo Bills.
2 very mediocre teams to below average teams, so I'm going to take the home team in this one, the Jets.
Next up, the Washington Redskins heading into Philly to take on the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz. My MVP this year, in my opinion, will be Carson Wentz. I'm going to take the Eagles at home to get a win over the Redskins.
Bold prediction, my friend. I am going to take the Eagles as well. I think the Redskins are, again, another below average team. I think the Eagles are going to get the win here by 7 to 10 points.
Next up, the LA Rams heading into Charlotte to take on Cam Newton and the Panthers. I'm going to take the Jared Goff and the Rams to get a win here on the road in Charlotte against Cam Newton and the Panthers. I just don't think Cam's going to look 100% this week. I'm going to take the Rams on the road in Charlotte to get a win against the Panthers.
I'm going to take the Panthers in an upset. I think most teams that travel from west to east struggle a little bit. I think the Rams are going to take a while to get going offensively. I think the Panthers are going to get the win here.
And next up is probably the best 1 o'clock game of the weekend, as it will be Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, coming off a phenomenal season last year, making it all the way to the AFC Championship game, as they take on Nick Foles and the Jaguars in TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. I'm going to take the road Chiefs to get a close win here. I think Tyreek Hill will have a little bit of a slow week this week because he's going to be guarded by one of the best corners in the NFL, Jalen Ramsey. But I feel like Sammy Watkins will have a nice week. Damian Williams, I'm sitting him this week in fantasy, but I think he'll do pretty well this week. I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Jags in Jacksonville.
I agree. I think it's going to be a dogfight. They go on the road. The Jaguars have a very good defense, so I think the Chiefs just are too good. I think they're going to win this game.
Next up, the Indianapolis Colts heading into Los Angeles to take on Phillip Rivers and the Chargers. I'm going to take Rivers and the Chargers at home. I feel like T.Y. Hilton might have a good week, but I'm going to take the Chargers at home to get a win over Jacoby Brissett and the Colts.
I think the Colts are reeling from the Andrew Luck retirement announcement. I think they're going to struggle early in the season. I like the Chargers here at home.
Next up, my lock of the weekend is it will be the Cincinnati Bengals heading into Seattle and the 12th man to take on Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. I'm going to take Seattle at home. No problems here. Russell Wilson's going to throw for 3 or 4 touchdowns this week against a pretty bad Bengals defense. I'm going to take the Seahawks at home to get a win over the Bengals.
I don't know if it's a lock, but I think the Seahawks will win this game. I think it'll be probably a 7 to 10 point victory.
Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting Jimmy G and the Niners. Should be a tough game here in Tampa this weekend, but because of the heat and because of the fans, I think will be there this weekend with some new hope and new life for this team. I'm going to take the Bucs at home to get a close win against the Niners. I feel like it could come down to a last-second field goal from Matt Gay, but I'm going to take the Bucs at home to get a win in a close one against Jimmy G and the Niners.
This is a must-win for the Bucs. That sounds silly in Week 1, but you look at the schedule and it gets a lot tougher from here. I think the Bucs are going to get the win. It's tough for the 49ers to travel this far east, playing the heat. They've been practicing in the nice Northern California weather. I think the Bucs get the win here.
Next up, the New York Giants heading into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. First take was there this morning. I'm going to take Zeke, Dak, and the Cowboys to get a win here. I don't feel like Eli Manning's going to play well. I'm going to take the Cowboys at home in Arlington at AT&T Stadium to get a win in Arlington against the G-Men.
I agree. I think Giants are going to be a mediocre to below mediocre team. I'm tired of hearing about the Cowboys, but it doesn't change my pick. I think the Cowboys will get the win.
Next up, the Detroit Lions heading into Phoenix to take on Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. I'm going to take Matthew Stafford and the Lions to get a win on the road in Arizona at State Farm Stadium in Glendale to get a win for Matt Patricia and start him off 1-0 this year. Started off 0-1 last year, but I think they'll start 1-0 this year. Give me the Lions on the road to get a win and start off Kyler Murray as an 0-1 starter in the NFL.
I disagree. I think the Cardinals are going to be really hyped up for this game. They're playing at home. I think they get the win against a really mediocre to bad team in the Detroit Lions. I think the Cardinals win this game.
Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into Gillette to take on Tom Brady and the Patriots. To my buddy Terry Jewell, I am very sorry, but I got to go with who I think is going to win this game, not who I want to win this game. I'm going to go with Tom Brady and the Pats to get a win here at home in Gillette. It's tough to beat them on Sunday night in Gillette. The Steelers I don't think the Steelers have ever won in Foxborough in a while, so I'm going to take the Patriots at home to get a win over your beloved Steelers.
I agree. Unfortunately, Terry Jewell, I got to pick the Patriots as well. I think that they're just too good of an organization. They win year after year. I got to take the Patriots in this one.
Next up, the Texans and the Saints. Monday Night Football starts off with a great game. 7:10 start time from Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. I'm 50-50 in this game because I don't know what Saints team's going to show up because they never look good in the first week of the season. But I'm going to take the Saints to get a close win at home over the Texans. It's going to be a great game. I'll definitely be watching most of it because Raw's probably not going to be very good this week. I'm going to take the Saints at home over the Texans.
I think the Saints are going to play with a chip on their shoulder all year. They're a pass interference call away from being in the Super Bowl. I think the Saints get the job done here and beat the Titans. And beat the Texans.
Yep. Next up, the Denver Broncos heading in to the Black Hole in Oakland to take on now re-signed Antonio Brown. Finally, he will play this week. He is 100% ready to go this week. John Gruden said this week he will play this week. I don't know how much, but I do have him back in my fantasy lineup this week. Thank you, John Gruden, for saving my fantasy team this week. I'm gonna take Antonio Brown and the Raiders to get a win at home in their final home opener in Oakland against Joe Flacco and the Broncos.
Feels like the Raiders are a dysfunctional mess. If it were almost any other team, I would take the road team, but the Raiders are at home. I think they're going to get the win.
And that will do it for this episode of Scott's Reading Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back next week. Same thing. I'll be back with my NFL and college football predictions next week. I might post another video on Thursday, but I'll see if that's the week I'm doing it. If not, it will be the following week. But I'll be right back here next week, either Thursday or Friday, with another episode of Scott's Reading Sports. And I'll see you guys right back then. Always like, subscribe, comment, and share. And I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott's Reading Sports right here on YouTube. See you later, guys.
See you guys.